On today's DNVR Broncos podcast, we're talking about the crazy money being thrown around to wide receivers and cornerbacks and how that impacts Pat Surtain. Should the Broncos give Pat Surtain a new contract despite him getting one this past year? We're going to break down all the sides to this. Plus, we're breaking down our second wave of free agency big board, and it all starts now. You get to reset the market, and you get to reset the market, and you get to reset the market. And let's reset our market, Henry, on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We're going to be talking about the massive deals that have been given out in the last 48 hours, where the wide receiver market has been reset and the cornerback market has been reset, and how that impacts the Denver Broncos on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We are Henry Chisholm, I guess you are Henry Chisholm. I am Zac Stevens. We got you here behind the camera. Shout out to our guy, RK. Hopefully he feels better and can join us tomorrow. But Henry, we got a big show today. Before we dive in, how you doing?
Good. No, it's just been busy. I'm studying up on Montana basketball.
Oh,
you know, there's a lot to like.
Big game in 48 hours.
Yeah, they've won 14 of their last 15. You love that. They played two good teams this year. Like Northern Colorado, good team, but like the real tier where, you know, they lost by 31 to Oregon. They lost by 35 to Tennessee. So, you know, it's a learning experience.
And they're playing
hot at the right time.
They're playing a big school.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's a big school.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get to go up against former CSU legend, Tanjay.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't looked at Wisconsin too much. Like, I've watched them play, but I'm curious. Because, like, you see those big guys and you're like, they look big. But just how big? Because, like, the difference between, like, 7 feet. Yeah. 7 feet and, like, 6'9" when you're the little Montana Grizzlies. It'll be a bit of a difference.
Damn, you're already putting yourself down the little Montana Grizzlies.
Just comparatively.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Maybe you're just being realistic. I can tell you got a beard shave and a haircut.
Yep.
Is that what you call it, a beard shave?
I think that would mean it all comes off.
Oh, so a beard trim?
Yeah, just a little trim. Just like get all the stuff done.
Yeah, looking sharp for your Vegas
It's called a
weekend.
lineup.
It's called a lineup? Did you get a lineup?
Yeah, I always usually try to do.
Damn, I'm over here just doing it myself, giving myself trims and shaves, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I don't trim.
Well, when you just need
shave.
it all off, you can do that.
Okay,
I guess
so
occasionally you do have
one.
the little cuts, but
yeah.
It's getting more rare.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying.
Yeah, it used to be more
become
often.
an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be. Wow, just flaming me to start this
No,
show.
I said you're getting better at it. It used to be like every other week there'd be like a cut, you know?
It's true.
It's been a while.
It's true. It's like I got in an attack with a grizzly bear.
Wow, wouldn't want that.
But now I'm Wisconsin, and I just beat the grizzly bear. Maybe not. I'm going to be pulling for Montana.
Yeah,
here at
no, it'd
Henry.
be fun.
The big underdog story.
Have you filled out a bracket?
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Who do you think's gonna win?
You'll be shocked to know. I've got
Montana?
Alabama winning it all.
Okay,
Alabama winning it all. This is going to be an SEC tournament.
Oh, really?
14 teams in the SEC making
crazy.
it. It's all SEC, and I've got all 4 SEC teams making it. I think if I'm not going to be a homer and take Alabama, Florida looks just so good right now.
Yeah.
You got Montana
Florida's
winning
on
it
my
all?
list. Florida's made me a lot of money. No, I'm not doing that. But we also did the fill it out based on which mascot would win bracket.
Oh,
well, we got to the
wow.
second region, and then we had back to back like Cougars versus Cougars. And it's like, well, what do you do here? And then it was Bulldogs versus Bulldogs. It's like, okay, this is enough.
You got
of
to
that.
take the Drake Bulldogs. In that case.
Are they tougher Bulldogs?
Yeah, of course.
Because that's the thing is like you hear Bulldog and you're like, oh, it's scary. But then you realize that against just about anything, the Bulldog loses.
Yeah.
Like even a Hornet, you might even take the Bulldog.
Probably. Yeah.
Bulldogs, like they can't breathe, right?
Yeah, they can't run. Yeah, exactly.
No, they can't do anything. It's a weak mascot. It just sounds tough. It should be a different dog that gets that name. Shouldn't be that little thing.
It's true. Yeah, a bull dog. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Very, very true. Wait, so who ended up winning in the mascot tournament?
Oh, we stopped when it was Cougars, Bulldogs.
You couldn't make it past that?
I was honestly pushing to stop a little bit earlier.
Oh.
But you know, you go through and it's like, what's the the Red Storm, St. John's Red Storm. It's like, because usually they like reference something.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
like,
tough.
I don't know. And so you try to look and it's like, oh, they used to be the Red Men. And then that got, they had to change that for obvious reasons. Just
From men
threw
to
Storm in there. It's like, so it's not a
Interesting.
reference to like the Storm of 1918 or something.
Right. Where you can actually put how dangerous it was on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, that's fun. I might have to do that tonight and actually make a pass a Bulldog, Cougar matchup right there and see where it ends
It
up.
actually could be kind of fun to compare. Like where we went different.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
there are
yeah,
some where it's
yeah.
like, what happens when a Spartan takes on a tiger? Because the Spartans could fight. You get the armor, you get the sword.
Well, haven't we seen this in like Gladiator?
We have, but and again, that's a starting point, but it is just a movie.
I'm taking the tiger.
Yeah, the tiger. Okay.
Let's do it tonight
Yeah,
and
okay.
then see where the results finish tomorrow. And Henry, let's dive into the Broncos conversation today because in the past 48 hours, there has been crazy money thrown around and it's made us kind of take a step back and say like, do the Broncos need to throw crazy money around at any of their players? And it started on Sunday night when Jordan Schultz reported that the Bengals have agreed to 2 record-setting contracts. One, making Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. 4-year, $160 million deal, getting over $40 million per season, just topping Myles Garrett with the Browns. And then they also made T. Higgins the highest paid wide receiver to an NFL history, giving him, $28 million, I think. And then yesterday, we wake up to news that there is a new highest paid cornerback in the NFL. Who was it? It was the Texans. Why can't I think
Derek
of his
Stingley.
name? Yeah, maybe they should.
It was Jaycee Horn
Before that, it was
first.
Jaycee Horn.
Yes,
yep.
but Derek Stingley, we wake up to the news yesterday that he got a 3-year, $90 million extension, $30 million a season.
89 of the 90 guaranteed.
Insane to become the new highest paid cornerback. And Henry, how this impacts the Broncos? Pat Surtain, the defensive player of the year, the best cornerback in the NFL, isn't not just the top paid cornerback in the NFL anymore. He's not even in the top 3 right now. So you've got Derek Stingley at 1, making $30 million per year. You've got Jaycee Horn making $26 million or 26.1 or something. Jalen Ramsey.
No, Pat was 24, so I think it was 25.
25? Because Jalen
right,
Ramsey, literally 24 hours after Pat Surtain became the highest paid corner in the NFL, the Dolphins just said, okay, Jalen, we'll make you the highest paid cornerback in the NFL last year by giving you like $24.1 million or something like that. So Pat Surtain, not even in the top 3 highest paid cornerbacks. When you hear all of this, Henry, what's the initial thought?
Well, it's that Trent McDuffie and Ahmad Gardner are eligible for extension. So any day we could be getting the news that it's been reset again and then reset again on top of that. So it's only going up from here. Like this is what happens when you sign a guy to a contract is, oh, he's the highest paid. And then a few months later, he's not. And then a few months later, he's not. But typically maybe you're not still the highest paid when the extension kicks in, but you're pretty close to it. You know, maybe there's one reset before it kicks in, but when you sign the deal a year before it actually starts, it's tough to be Pat. You know, he did not bet on himself, and because of that, he is where he is. Yeah,
which is crazy. Because he could have bet on himself, and then we're talking about there's no doubt right now he's going to be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL at 31. So what do we think this number is going to be after McDuffie and Sauce Gardner sign their deals? Because do you think both of them will become the highest paid cornerback in the NFL?
Definitely. I mean, Sauce is Sauce. People have been saying he's one of the best corners in the NFL, like maybe the best. And Trent McDuffie, an all-pro, like there's no way it's less, I wouldn't think, than that. The question is just how much more, because we've started to see other players go with I don't just want to be the highest paid at my position. I just want to be the highest paid non-quarterback. And I don't think that these guys could get to that point. Yeah. But you can't be too surprised with how these contracts are growing. Yeah, no. And when you look in, Henry, if Sauce Gardner says, I don't just want to be the highest paid cornerback, I want to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, then that's when you look at Jamar Chase's number. And the wide receiver market has gone bananas. It's been absolutely crazy. Don't know what teams are doing.
I guess if you have Jamar Chase, you're paying him $40 million. But like, I don't know about these other guys. Brandon Ayuk making $30 million. That is insane.
Yep.
And so it just shows how these markets are blowing up. And the wide receiver market has just been going crazy over the cornerback market. You do wonder at what point the cornerback market catches up, because there's a big argument, an easy argument to be made, that cornerback is more valuable than receiver. Yet you look at the contracts, and the highest paid wide receiver is making $10 million more per year than the highest paid cornerback. So it will be interesting to see how Sauce, how Trent McDuffie, how these other great cornerbacks approach this and say, like, no, I don't want to be paid as much as Brandon Ayuk. I want to be paid as much as Jamar Chase, the guy that I'm paid to shut down.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of it just is like, how often are you resetting the market and that sort of thing. But also you look at the cornerback position, like Pat Surtain's best corner in the NFL. When people talk about it though, like maybe Sauce is in the conversation. Outside of that, nobody's even really in the conversation.
Stingley after this past year. But I mean,
so maybe there's like 3 that they talk about. When you're talking receivers though, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, like is Tyreek Hill still that guy? CeeDee Lamb, and you wind up with like more of these guys who are in that top tier. And I think that's what kind of carries that market up higher. It's just that there, to me, is a lot more talent at receiver in the NFL right now than there's talent at cornerback. So I think that's a piece of it. And then that gets amplified by the fact that whenever they get a new contract, it resets the market, so it grows faster. It's kind of like exponential. But on top of that, you also have just the fact that receivers tend to last longer than cornerbacks. Like you do have examples of like a Champ Bailey who was just really good for a decade, but it seems like those guys kind of come and go a little bit more. Like guys have their moments, Trayvon Diggs, like he's awesome. And then a couple years later, like, I don't know. Is he really awesome? Examples going back to like Nnamdi Asomugha, who you're just like, oh my goodness, is the best cornerback in the NFL. And then a year later, he's not. And so I think that it's those two things. It's that there's more talent at the receiver position, and cornerback seems to cycle through more. Like your peak is just so much shorter, it feels like, versus receivers who will just stick around until they're 30, 31.
It's a really good point, Henry. And before we go further with this conversation, and before we give a shout out to our friends, we got to give a shout out here, Henry, to George Payton, because as the Toyota Chat is properly giving him credit for, boy, has he just nailed all of the extensions that he's given recently. And biggest one is Pat Surtain. In less than 9 months, Pat Surtain has gone from the highest paid cornerback at $24 million a year to now an absolute bargain, making 80% of what the top cornerback is getting right now. But then it doesn't only stop with Pat Surtain. You can go on to Jonathan Cooper, $15 million a year, getting a really good player there. And then Quinn Miners, of course, you get him for $18 million. Now guards, I think a guard in free agency just got over $20 million. That market's only going to get crazier and crazier, where Quinn's only going to be making, I shouldn't say only, but making $18 million. And then I think he's going to do the exact same thing with Nick Bonito this year, and he's going to get Nick for a bargain, what he's going to end up looking like a couple years down the line. Or maybe Nick says, let me bet on myself after seeing what happened to Pat Surtain. Or maybe he sees what the Broncos could do with Pat Surtain, and Nick Bonito says, you know what? They're going to take care of Pat Surtain, so I'm okay signing this deal. Because, Henry, the conversation now changes to what the headline of this show is, and that is about, should the Broncos give Pat Surtain a new contract despite giving him one last year, but kind of pay him like he is the best cornerback in the NFL. Let's dive into this conversation after I give a shout out to our friends over at Every Plate, where if you have to spend big bucks or tons of time in the kitchen, and that doesn't sound appealing to you to get food? No, you switch to Every Plate, where over at Every Plate, they're going to give you delicious food. They're going to give you easy to make food, and it's going to show, it's going to be less than what you spend on making homemade meals at home than if you would just go out to the grocery store or restaurants. Cooking the same thing over and over again, you can turn your dinner game up 100 degrees by switching to Every Plate, where Every Plate's constantly rotating meals and recipes every single week. week. This is a big issue that I have when I cook. I just have no idea what to do, so I just end up making the same thing over and over again. Every plate switches that up. And what are you waiting for? Dig into these flavor-packed meals your household will love. New customers can enjoy a special offer of only $1.99 a meal. That's $1.99 a meal by going to everyplate.com/podcast and use that code DNVR199 to get started. Applied as discount on first box, limited time only.
And shout out to Volo. If you're looking for something to do, they've got all sorts of stuff. Just looking at the calendar here, looks like Saturday they've got Hike and Hops, which I would imagine means you go on a hike and then drink beer. Sounds like a good time. That's up in Boulder. A March Madness watch party. That's in Cap Hill. Bar games with a pub crawl next Friday. All sorts of different stuff. Anything else stand out? Bar Tab Challenge Flip Cup. Oh, here at DNVR, April 3rd. So again, just reading the headline, I would say you pay your $5 to enter, and if you win the Flip Cup, Bar Tab Challenge would make me think Bar Tab maybe a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
So all sorts of cool stuff. They've got all sorts of leagues. They're the most popular provider of adult social sports leagues in Denver. They got pickup games. They've got events, soccer, volleyball, pickleball, kickball, basketball, cornhole, many more. You can play in Lodo, Rhino, Highland, City Park, Cherry Creek, South Broadway. You get to meet people, make friends, stay active, and give yourself something to do after work. So players can sign up as a free agent, small group, or full team, and all abilities and backgrounds are welcome to join. You can use the code DNVR10 for $10 off any Volo Denver league.
And shout out to everyone that's tuning in with us. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in. We really appreciate you rocking and rolling with us. On March 18th, just the middle of March, we're so far away from football, but of course, we still are talking Broncos every single day. So make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to turn on alerts so if there's any breaking news, we're going live, you know about it. Hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Let's dive back into this conversation. And Henry, should the Broncos, just out of the kindness of their heart, go out of their way and give Pat Surtain, or consider giving Pat Surtain, a new contract to make him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL?
Nope.
Oh,
no,
wow.
absolutely not. Like, that's just not what you do. That's bad business. Like, you got a guy on a deal. You got him locked up for 4 years. There's no reason to just go out of your way and say, hey, would you like some more money? Because we'd love to just give you more money. That's just straight up bad business.
Wow. Okay. I disagree with you. And actually, I didn't think you were going to take that approach after having some conversations before the show and yesterday afternoon. So we're going to have a good conversation here. And Henry, when you do business deals, it's not always about the money. There's other things that you factor in here. And you do this for Pat Surtain for a number of reasons. And first and foremost, he deserves it. He is not only the best cornerback in the NFL, he is the defensive player of the year. Only two guys in the history of your organization have had this. One of them's Pat Surtain, and the other was, 50 years ago in 1970s with Gradishar? That is so rare. So you reward the player for being this good and really blowing his contract out of the water. So you reward him, and then it sets an incredible precedent for it does. Okay. It does, because what you show the guys on your team is contract. We always hear about contract years, right? Where a guy blows up on their contract year and then you have to sign him to a big deal and then they never end up being that type of guy again. You show them, hey, if you're going to go out there and you're going to, we're going to sign you to a deal, and then you go and win MVP, or you go and win Defensive Player of the Year, or you go and win Offensive Player of the Year, yeah, we'll pay you like that, and we'll give you that money. Yeah. We still want the carrot to be dangled in front of you right there. We're not doing this for anyone. Pat Surtain just had arguably the best defensive year in Denver Broncos history. So if you sign a new deal, let's say Nick Bonito signs $23 million, then he goes out and wins Defensive Player of the Year because he has 21.5 sacks. Sure, we'll give you a new deal. We will pay you like that because you continued to up your game. We're not doing this for a guy that just goes out and has 700 rushing yards after you sign him to a deal that's 500 rushing yards. No, we're saying if you become elite and strive to be even more elite than you were when we signed that deal, we're gonna up you and we're gonna take care of you. And that shows to the rest of the locker room. One, keep going for more. Two, man, this team really has our back. This organization really has our back. I don't have to be worried about signing a team-friendly deal because if I go out and really extend that, then they're gonna take care of me.
I'm just not sure that's a good precedent to set, though, because then every time you have a contract negotiation, you say like, hey, I played like a $25 million a year receiver. you gave me 18 million. Give me more. Like that's what you did with Pat.
And no. Because then you tell him, well, no. You didn't win Offensive Player of the Year. You didn't win MVP. You didn't go way above and beyond.
Yeah, I just think that then you just have all these players having that expectation when, again, like that's just not a good expectation, I think, to set. And I get that like adds to the culture and feels like you get rewarded, but you also get rewarded just by getting a new contract. Like most of these guys are on 3-year deals, like tack a couple years on, or, you know, when the deal comes up, you can sign a new one. I think that letting people think that they'll just get money for outperforming, you know, it reminds me of the, have you seen Mr. Deeds, Adam Sandler movie?
No.
Basically, Adam Sandler has like his like great uncle or something like that, who owns an NFL team, and the quarterback comes in and says like, "I want more money because like look what I did." And it's this conversation. The owner's just like, "Well, if you had played worse than what we paid for, would you be giving money back?" He's like, "No." And it kind of comes back to that. Again, it's a different conversation if Pat comes in and says like, "I want more money," but just from a Broncos perspective, just saying like, "Good job, let's just give you more money," unprompted. I mean, that's to me just not. It's just not good business.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs have done this. The Buffalo Bills have done this, and this is why it doesn't set a bad precedent. Is because you are taking the best player on your team and you are doing this with them. The Buffalo Bills did this a couple weeks ago. They give Josh Allen the most guaranteed money, the biggest contract ever. He just signed a contract like a year or two ago, but they wanted to take care of him. They wanted to give him that guaranteed money, and the Kansas City Chiefs do this all the time. The Kansas City Chiefs signed Patrick Mahomes to like a $170 million deal a couple years ago, and then a week later, they give him $500 million deal, just because they said like, "Oh shit, man, you're really good. We want to make sure that we reward you. You do this for the best players on your team," and that's the precedent you set. That's the precedent you said is, okay, if Bo Nix goes out there and he becomes clearly the best player on your team and he becomes in that elite category, you're going to do that. And so this is something that we've seen done before. It's where you have an elite player and you give him that deal. So for everyone saying that I'm wrong on this take, tell me how this is different than the Josh Allen, than the Buffalo, or than the Patrick Mahomes. Those are the elite players on your team, and that's the precedent you're setting. If you become that good, you're going to become that guy where we will take care of you.
I mean, there's two things. I think the first one is those guys are quarterbacks, and quarterbacks is just different. Like there is just an added value that they have that no other position can match. And it's just a different conversation. Like when you see those two guys do it, it's just different than if it was a receiver, if it was a corner, or anything else. And then the other one is that was always part of the plan. You know, remember when Mahomes signed the 10-year deal, and along with it, like Schefter tweets like, and this is a deal that they will be changing to make fit like as the market changes, so that Patrick Mahomes is still paid fairly, but they wanted something in writing that they could kind of work off of. And maybe that if that was a conversation that the Broncos had with Pat.
No, but really quick, that $500 million deal, they signed that just after a year before signing like another contract with them. So that wasn't, they didn't then also adjust it. Well, they did. What I'm saying is they gave him that one after already signing him to a big deal. Definitely.
And then but when that deal came out, it was like one of the things they said is that we're going to kind of keep tweaking this from here to make sure it's fair, to make sure those guys are paid. And I'd imagine the Josh Allen deal was similar, where you just have like this handshake agreement where it's like, hey, if you wind up, if the market goes up here, we'll take care of you. Like we'll get you to that point. And maybe the Broncos and Pat had that same conversation, but you know, I think a more realistic conversation that they had was, hey, like you realize that, you know, Jaycee Horn's contract's gonna be up, Sauce Gardner's gonna get paid, the Trent McDuffie's gonna get paid, Derek Stingley, I guess at the time maybe wasn't quite as big of a name, but you knew that was a potential as well. I think it's more likely that they had that conversation, which is, yeah, this contract might not be the biggest in a year, but what we are doing is saying we will guarantee you $100 million right now, or I guess guarantee is a little lower, but we'll give you the $96 million contract right now so you can have that security.
They didn't guarantee him $96 million.
No, but we'll give you the $96 million contract right now so that we so that you can have that security, and in exchange for that, like you realize that after this season, like things could change. whether that's positive or negative. And by locking this deal in now, that's the reason the Broncos would make that deal at the time. Otherwise, why not wait?
Yeah, and then you way outperform it. When Pat Surtain signed that deal, he was probably 50-1 to be Defensive Player of the Year. So he went and had a 2% great season. Already being an elite player, he went and outperformed the odds that much. And so that's why it's so rare. That's why you're not setting a bad precedent. That's why you reward this, and then that trickles down where it shows like, damn, these guys are taking care of us, and we don't have to be worried about signing what we think is like a team-friendly deal and taking that team-friendly discount, because if we go out and outperform this, that's different. And people are saying like, wow, Zac just wants to give Pat a new contract every single year if he goes out and has another good year this year. If he goes out and wins Defensive Player of the Year again, make him the highest defensive paid player in the NFL. I don't know why this is so difficult. Like, taking care of your own matters.
He's taking care of them. He gets $96 million.
Really taken care of.
Because
now guys that aren't even close. There's one cornerback, and then there's the rest. There's not a conversation about who the best cornerback is. It's Pat Surtain, then a major drop-off here. And you said it. Stingley just got $89 million guaranteed. You're going to see Sauce Gardner get $100 million guaranteed. And in less than a year, Pat Surtain's deal is going to seem so insignificant. And I would reward him. And I would not be surprised if the Broncos do this. So I'm just preparing the chat to not be surprised if this comes down. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but maybe a year from when he got his last contract. So right before the start of the season, if they take care of him.
Yeah, and again, it's a different conversation if Pat asks for a new deal. Like, if Pat goes in there and says like, hey, can we do something about this? Then sure, then you can have that conversation. But in terms of the Broncos just reaching out and saying like, hey, we just want to do this for you. Again, like, that's just...
Well, so wait, really quick.
He's on a 4-year contract.
Why would Pat not ask for it?
Because it's bad business. Like you have a contract. You shouldn't be trying to kind of... It wouldn't be reneging on the deal, but essentially saying like, hey, we know we just did this last year and we all agreed that... Like, he gained a lot from that. He got to take all of the risk out from having a bad season. Like, do all this. He decided not to bet on himself by signing this contract, and now he's locked into a deal for 4 years. And luckily for him, he's 24, so he gets to renegotiate again. And when he's 28, 29, and he'll get a second big deal. And that's probably the thought process he had at the time, which is, let's make sure that we get this first $100 million, and then after that, we can see what we can do from there. But again, like, if Pat does go in there and say, I think I'd like some more, then that's where, if I'm the Broncos, I'd be more than willing to say like I don't want Pat to be pissed off at me. And if that means like, hey, we'll give you an extra $2 million a year for a Pro Bowl appearance or something like that, like a goal that he should hit, or even if you want a bigger one to throw like a Super Bowl, you guys win the Super Bowl, like, you're going to be a big part of that. We'll give you an extra $5 million. Like, if push comes to shove and Pat's upset, like, it is true that his contract isn't fair anymore, but like, it's a contract. Like, the deal was made, the deal is the deal, and you knew that this was a potential outcome. Just like a potential outcome was he could get hurt, and all of a sudden people are saying like, oh, you got hurt late in the season, you're not going to even be able to play half next year. Like, we don't know what you're going to be when you play, and because of that, you wind up with a 1 year, $15-20 million deal, whatever it may be. He decided to take the risk out. He got this contract, but again, like, if it does come down to he wants a new deal or he's going to be pissed off, sure, like, throw a couple incentives in there, but I'm certainly not saying like, you are now making $30 million a year. Like, that would just be a step too
Everything you said, though, Henry, the NFL and teams and organizations always use against the Broncos, or always use against the players. A deal's a deal. Yeah. You signed this deal, so we're not going to, or you signed a deal that has no guaranteed money in that last year, so we're going to go with it. And it happens all the time. So it's a two-way street there.
That's
the things
the way it goes,
you were
though.
saying. Yeah, but it works the other way too. Huh. And so
in what way?
When the player teams do that all the time. Oh, it's a business, so we aren't going to give you that. Or it's a business, so we are going to work with it. It happens all the time where what you're saying about Pat in contracts just happens.
Yeah, but that's why you just never see somebody like renegotiate this early. Like, it just doesn't happen except for Pat and Josh Allen.
I give you two examples.
They're two MVP quarterbacks. And again, like,
Pat's a defensive player of the year.
He is. But like the last...
That's the MVP of the defense.
Definitely. But again, would you rather... Would you rather have the MVP quarterback or MVP? Like, it's just a different conversation.
That's not the question, though.
Exactly.
Of course, you're taking the quarterback all day.
Has there ever been anybody other than a quarterback who, before the deal even kicks in, like gets to see this? I doubt it.
I have no idea.
I really doubt it because you just don't hear about it. That's why it's so.
And you just don't hear about players winning Defensive Player of the Year on the Broncos either. It's happened twice.
Yeah,
that's why we are in unprecedented territory.
Who won Defensive Player of the year before?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Like TJ Watt, maybe
Myles Garrett, maybe who just got $40 million
afterward when his contract.
No, his contract wasn't over.
But he has 1 year left, right?
His contract wasn't up.
1 year later.
That's what I'm saying.
But there's a year to go, not 4 years locked in.
Yeah.
That's the common time to renegotiate.
Well, Henry,
this would just be so far out of like the NFL world of things that happen.
Henry, the chat agrees with you. Yeah. So is TJ Watt? Yeah, he gets new contracts before his contract is over. That's for sure. Let's continue. Not this conversation, but let's jump over to other players that the Broncos decided not to do deals with. And Henry, it's one that you want to talk about, and we want to do that after I give a shout out to our friends over at Bet365, which is the official partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. And also, if you want to get in on the hoops action this week, that's where we're all going to be. I know Ryan does the all dogs parlay where he just takes, or not parlay, but he takes.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. Where he bets on every single underdog over at Bet365. And if you want to get in on those, Montana plus 1,000, CSU actually favored this weekend. If you want to get in on these, go to Bet365 and use the code DNVR365 when you sign up, because over at Bet365, when you use that code DNVR365 at sign up, place a deposit $10, place a $5 bet, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets when you sign up. Use that code DNVR365, deposit $10 and place a bet of $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Must be 21 and older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, once help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. And
shout out to Raising Cane's. We love Raising Cane's here. I wonder if there's a Raising Cane's in Vegas. Feels like there's got to be. I wonder where it is, because I would love.
It's right on the strip.
Okay, that's a ways away. Because that just seems like the perfect place. You know, you have a couple beers, go to Raising Cane's. Everything there is just open so late. Cane's is the best. It's super simple. It's chicken fingers. They're hand battered and cooked just to order just for you. The crinkle cut fries, the thick sliced Texas toast, the garlic butter grilled on top. Yes, all sorts of sauces, as we all know. But most importantly, the secret cane sauce, which is made in the restaurant every day. It makes the full box combo so special. Again, there's nothing better, especially this time of year when we're just sitting at home watching basketball all day, every day. Ooh, Raising Cane's are the best. You can get your box combo today. Make your craveable dreams a reality. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love.
And speaking of one love, even though you all disagreed with me today, shout out to the Twitter chat. Shout out to everyone tuning in with us. Hit us with the thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Helps us out a lot. So, Henry, there was some other news over the weekend. The San Francisco 49ers traded running back Jordan Mason to the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings then went and gave him a 2-year, $7 million contract. And I think you were left saying, why weren't the Broncos in on that?
I personally was not.
Oh, you were not?
I know,
okay.
But that was a common sentiment. And I think a lot of it comes from, you remember the day before free agency when there was a large group of Broncos fans saying, why are the Broncos doing nothing? And it's like, well, just relax. Like, this is a team that does a lot often. And then 2 days later, they've got, maybe the best free agent class, at least in terms of their needs, that you're going to find in the NFL. Jordan Mason, though, it's another one where as these running backs fall off the board, I understand why people would be anxious to see the Broncos not have one of them, because, Najee Harris is gone. Aaron Jones is gone. Jordan Mason, who we'd known was a potential trade target, also gone. Interesting, though, so what happens was the Vikings trade a 6th-round pick for him, and he's the running back from the 49ers who got a huge workload because the 49ers lost Christian McCaffrey for so much of the year. Again, like something like 6 yards per carry and do it all back. Like, he can protect, he can catch balls out of the backfield. To me, though, there's just no rush to get a running back. Like, go to the draft, because even though there are like some good solid running backs available, this is the best running back class in a decade, maybe. I forget I guess Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs were the same draft. So you have that like top end there. But I mean, you got Ashton Genty and a lot of people like Marion Hampton, some of these other guys. So maybe that's not even comparable. So again, like I understand why people would want him. It wouldn't be a bad move to go get him. Give me some of these guys that have the crazy upside though.
The only pushback I'd give, Henry, is you're not, I agree with you, you're not getting Jordan Mason and he's your one and you're wiping your hands clean and saying we're good with running back for this entire offseason. The Broncos need multiple running backs, and I believe the Broncos are going to get multiple running backs, whether that's one in free agency and the draft, whether that's two in the draft, whether it's one in free agency and two in the draft. I think the Broncos, Sean Payton told us after the season that they need multiple guys, new guys in this room. So they're going to go out and get multiple running backs. So I wouldn't have minded this, knowing that it wasn't the only move they were going to make. Because, I mean, for a 6th round pick, you get a guy that's 24 years old, 25 years old, going to be 26. So still young, though. I mean, he still has 4 more years till he's 30. And you get a guy that has very little tread on his tires. He has 236 rushing attempts in his 3 years in the NFL. And a guy that is averaging 5.3 yards per carry. Yes, he's in a very run-friendly and a system that fits running backs really well with Kyle Shanahan. Everyone in Denver with Mike Shanahan knows how good this running game is, so it benefits running backs. But Sean Payton also knows how to have running backs excel. Darren Sproles, Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara. He knows how to get running backs to excel as well. And here, you get a guy that is coming off a year with 789 rushing yards off 5.2 yards per carry. He was the running back for the 49ers for half the games of this season, and he was the guy. So I wouldn't have minded giving him $3.5 million, probably just for 1 year guaranteed, taking a flyer on him, giving a 6th round pick. Was this the first thing that came across my mind when the Broncos didn't trade for him? Like, man, what a missed opportunity. No, it certainly wasn't. So I don't think the Broncos made a big mistake by doing this, but I wouldn't have minded doing this deal.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have minded either. And you could get excited about him and you'd say, hey, like, is he up to like the full-time 25 touches a game over the course of a season? We've never seen it before. But again, like it's always that push and pull where you say, we've never seen him handle that role. But if he had done that, we'd say like, oh, he doesn't have much tread on his tires. Like he's been overworked to this point. So you kind of have to, I don't worry about that too much one way or the other because there's just pros and cons. At the same time, though, like I said, there are just so many of these running backs in this draft that are just unbelievable. And maybe it's me just, I don't know. I'm a bit of a gambler. Like, that's just the truth. And when the opportunity to go after a draft pick who just has that next level of upside, like I won't be surprised if Jordan Mason goes out and has 1,000 yards somewhere. If he has 1,100, I'll be that might surprise me a little bit. And both those things, maybe I should just say Broncos haven't had it in forever. The Broncos should just jump on that and call it good. The idea though of going to the draft and going after having two tickets to hit on one of these guys who could be in that tier above, a perennial Pro Bowler type. That to me is just more appealing for where this Broncos offense is.
Why would a guy that averages 4.2 yards per carry in his career,
5, yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you. 5.2 yards per carry in his career not have a high upside?
Well, I think he does have the upside, but you just watch him play. Like, there's just a gear that he doesn't have. Like, in terms of, like, hitting big plays. Like, he's good. He has enough speed to push the edge and turn the corner, but there isn't a lot of extra speed to, like, make extra plays on top of that. And then on top of it...
So then, really quick, off of that, because I want to ask you, how is that not Omarion Hampton?
There are some similarities.
Because I see very, very big similarities between these two guys.
I would imagine the 40 time. Hampton was what, like a 4.48? Off the top of my head, I'd say that Jordan Mason was low 4.5. Like I do think that in terms of athleticism, there is just another tick up there.
Totally,
and I think
there probably should be.
Yeah, totally. 4.58 for Jordan Mason.
4.58.
Yeah,
high 40s. Yeah, and again, like it's not like that's the end of the world, but he's a good running back. I just think that there are guys out there who could be great running backs. And then the other piece is just the scheme. Like, again, like that 49ers wide zone scheme, the Broncos don't do much of that. It's more gap power, like get Quinn Miners pulling, get Ben Powers pulling and pick a hole and go to it. And you might just be not maximizing some of the vision that we've seen from Jordan Mason. So I think there's a little piece of it that's fit, but for the most part, just you're talking about like a B+ athlete versus a draft where there's some A athletes in there.
Man, I think if the Broncos would have went out and gone and traded for Jordan Mason, they'd be tipping their hand to what they were doing. I think Travion Henderson would be by far the favorite to be drafted by the Broncos, whether it was the first round, whether it was second round, whether it was like a trade back in the first round and then you grab him there, because Jordan Mason is the bowling ball. I don't think you're picking Jordan Mason up and then going after Omari Hampton. So the fact that they didn't do this leaves every single running back open right now. And Henry, really any of the free agent running backs that are out there right now, to me, you can pick up, and then you can also get any other running back in the draft as well. So this would have kind of pigeonholed them for what they were going to do. But I wasn't bummed that they didn't make this move. Was just trying to show why people would want him, and got a guy that's averaging over 5 yards per carry. He's a good running back. But as it stands right now, Broncos are going to draft 2 running backs in the draft, and this is a heck of a draft to want a running back. And I think the Broncos are going to get multiple here. But before, did you got something else, Henry?
No. I mean, just that I'd go through the draft, see if you find 2 guys you really like. I mean, Audric Estime was a guy who they said, like, wow, we were shocked that he was still here in the 5th round. Got to take him. And then figure it out after the draft, because there'll still be running backs out there. I mean, when did Kareem Hunt get signed by the Chiefs? Like that? Yeah,
yesterday.
Oh, I mean, like last year. It was late. Maybe that was the year
Middle
before.
Of the season.
Really late. Middle of the season, yeah. And next thing you know, the guy's taking half your touches in a Super Bowl.
Averaging like 3.3 yards per carry.
But like you've seen him patch it together, and I just think you can, if you need a vet, you can find one after the draft. With this draft class, go all in on these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind a 6th round pick. I mean, we're talking about Audric Estime for a 5th round pick last year. So you're saying, what can you get in the draft? Well, you can get Audric Estime with a 5th round pick, who had I really like Audric as a person, and as a player. I like what he can do, but if you're telling me you can have Audric with a 5th or Jordan Mason for a 6th and $3.5 million, I
thought he got 7 a year.
I thought it was 2 years, $7 million.
Oh, that could be.
I think so, because they also have Aaron Jones for $10 million. So
it's a running back intensive scheme for what it's worth. Yeah,
Jordan Mason's now their 2nd running back there. So what'd you find on the contract there?
2 years, 10.5.
2 years, 10.5. Why was it
7.2 guaranteed?
Okay, that's probably what it is then. Yep, for 2 years.
And I probably saw 7 is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then maybe that is a little too rich for me. But I mean, still, I think if you compare and you're going for a guy this year, I like the move for the 49ers or for the Vikings.
Definitely.
And a lot of people asking about Christian McCaffrey, saying that the Broncos should go and trade for him. Maybe that's a conversation for another day. But Henry, we've got to get to our free agent big board. And what I want the Toyota chat to do, let me know who your top remaining free agent for the Broncos is. So probably not a tackle, because the Broncos have their tackles set up. Probably not a cornerback, because the Broncos have their cornerbacks set up. So this is the Broncos big board. This is our free agency big board in the eyes of the Broncos. Henry, when we did this last week or 2 weeks ago, heading into free agency, there were some guys on both of our big boards that the Broncos went out and signed. Most notably, Evan Ingram was on both of them. Now he's a Bronco, so he is off the board. Of the remaining guys, who is your number 1 free agent?
And again, we're like factoring contracts and stuff, which I think is an important caveat. Because otherwise you'd say like, oh, Amari Cooper is really, really good. I think I'd be more interested in Keenan Allen. Just assuming that based on where I think those 2 price tags would be. And I know he's not the receiver Amari Cooper is. And, Stefon Diggs is a whole nother conversation. There's some of those guys. To me, Keenan Allen, big slot, can block, adds a dynamic that you just don't have on the team. Still pretty productive. I like the idea of, similar to the Najee Harris tweet that really got me killed on Twitter, I like the idea of taking a guy from a pretty bad offense and saying like, I don't know, he might have it. So Keenan Allen, this is probably where the chat turns and decides they hate me for the day, but that's
well, it's okay. All the hate's been on me the first 43 minutes of this show.
Let me take some for you.
So sell me on him.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I should check what the stats actually are instead of just rounding. But again, like, he's an older guy, but he's the one guy who You Google Keenan Allen. First thing, Sports Illustrated, Broncos label best fit for 6-time Pro Bowl receiver. Turns out I'm not alone
Did Henry Chisholm say that he was the best fit?
Yeah,
Is that who they're quoting
Maybe. There? Again, 744 yards last year for the Bears, 1,200 the year before for the Chargers. And maybe he's over the hill because he is 32, but if you just... You don't need somebody who can play every snap. You don't need somebody who's going to be like 1,000-yard receiver. If you get a guy for cheap who turns out to be, you love that happened. But you got 67% of the snaps to fill between Lil Jordan Humphrey and Josh Reynolds. You want to give more to the young guys. Let their roles expand. But also, Keenan Allen taking some of those would sure be nice for Bo Nix. You get him and Evan Ingram in the middle of the field. You're just so many easy completions there.
Yeah, I don't mind him being on the list. I think a veteran receiver makes sense as long as he's willing to take a different role, because last year when the Bears got him, he was coming off a 1,200-yard season. He probably thought he was the dude, and now the Bears didn't even consider bringing him back. They probably want Rome Odunze to have an even bigger role, and of course they have DJ Moore there as well, so maybe it was just natural, but that does scare me a little bit. Like, man, around a young quarterback, they don't want to bring Keenan Allen back around a young quarterback and Caleb Williams. Does that have some question marks there? I want to get Chris Harris Jr.'s opinion on Keenan Allen. Remember them going back and forth during a game, after a game one time.
And then becoming teammates.
I wonder how those practices work, because we know that Chris could get after teammates in practice.
Absolutely.
And those are teammates that he liked.
Yep.
Can't imagine a teammate that maybe he didn't really like. So I like that. Just have to make sure, as Chad says in the Toyota chat, veteran receiver, but no divas. Just got to make sure that he's not a diva. I don't know that about him, whether he is, whether he isn't. If he's not, I'm open to it, because I do see a role for a veteran receiver as long as they're willing to take a wide receiver 3.5.
Yeah.
Where you might not be on the field more than 10 snaps in a game if it doesn't align to the game plan right there. You're not going to be guaranteed.
Little Jordan Humphrey was wide receiver 2 last year with 50% of the snaps. That's the second most. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I want Marvin Mims to take that. I want Devon Bailey to take that. And then you mix in a little Jordan Humphrey, which don't think he's a receiver anymore. You mix in an Amari Cooper, a Keenan Allen there. So if they're willing to take that role, I'm all for it. I'm going to have a veteran receiver on my list as well. Actually, probably going to have Keenan Allen on my list as well. But let's put Keenan Allen at 5 for me. So I see what you're saying there. I'm not in love with it. But what we'll find out by going through this, Henry, at least in my eyes, there's like no talent left.
Absolutely.
There's a little bit of talent left. But holy cow, it is crazy. We're 8 days into the legal tampering period, and it feels like free agency's totally done. Now, I like the guys on my list, but after that, just a mass. Like, it was hard for me to come up with 5 guys right now.
Oh, totally.
Which just shows you, thank goodness the Broncos are in a really good spot, because if they still wanted to go out and sign multiple guys to have big roles on the team this year, they would be SOL. But Henry, I'm going to go with my number 1 guy. I'm going with J.K. Dobbins. And what I love about J.K. Dobbins, you talk about the high upside of the running back position. J.K. Dobbins has an extremely high upside. When he played last year, really the first half of the season, he was one of the best running backs in the NFL. He finished the season with 900 rushing yards despite missing many games, and he was a great fit with that Chargers offense, and I think he'd be a good fit with the Broncos, especially now that you're in the third wave of free agency. You're getting J.K. Dobbins on a very affordable deal, and he's a guy that would likely come in and compete with someone you draft, maybe be a backup, but have the upside of being a really good starter, because last year it was him and Derek Henry really battling it out to be the best receiver or the best running back in the NFL at the beginning of the season. 900 yards. He had 4.6 yards per attempt. He had 9 touchdowns. He was really good. Now, he is not your plan A going into week 1. He's probably your plan B, maybe even a plan C, but the high upside is there. He's a veteran, and he's had terrible injuries over his career. That's why you're not making him your plan A. But he's only 26 years old, and he's going to be 26 this entire next season. So you're still getting a young guy with barely any wear on his tread, only 429 attempts in his 5-year career, because he missed a full season due to that injury. So give me J.K. Dobbins. You're taking a gamble, and I think that this gamble could turn out to be really, really good returns.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, I'm just not interested in the running back right now because I want to go through the draft first. But if you're going to get one, J.K. Dobbins is a great choice. I mean, he's the best available. I think that he's He's like less explosive Ashton Genty. Like that's what he looks like when you watch him run. Like there's a lot of that. Like, wait, how did that guy fall off of him, or how'd that guy like hit him in the ribs and just bounce off?
Yeah.
And just like some of the wiggle, and just Genty has like a little bit more like the side to side burst. The top gear is just a little bit more. Again, like you're talking about a guy who's probably going to be one of the top 5 or 10 picks in the draft versus a guy who you can just go and sign and save your first round pick. So I don't know. If they sign J.K. Dobbins, I'm not going to be upset. Like, again, similar to Jordan Mason. Like, that's a good running back, and you got a good running back. To me, though, I'd just be willing to gamble on missing out on my favorite of the free agents in exchange for having more flexibility to just go big in the draft.
This doesn't change anything with my approach to the draft.
Really? So you'd still like if Genty's there? Interesting.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm not signing a running back in the first wave of free agency. I'm not giving Najee Harris $5 to $10 million. I wouldn't have given Aaron Jones big money as well because I think that would have really limited you in terms of how you approach the draft. J.K. Dobbins, heck, he might be my third running back entering the season. If I sign him now to 1 year, $2.5 million deal.
It's got to be more than that, though.
But 3.5?
I think it might be more like 8 or 9.
Oh, per year?
I think so.
No, I'm not.
I might be wrong.
I'm not doing that. I'm saying we're going into wave 3 right now of free agency. He's still available. And it might be a big deal like that, but I wouldn't do that. I'm saying on the right contract, I'd bring J.K. Dobbins in. And what I would do is...
I guess PFF has 3.5, so maybe...
There you go. I would do that in a heartbeat. And if Ashton Genty's there, I draft him in the first round. If Omarion Hampton's there, he could be a first-round pick. Travion Henderson. And then I'm also going into the day 3 of the draft and not being afraid to get Brashard Smith out of SMU, more of a joker type of running back, a receiving back. And I'm okay with having 3 new running backs this year, and maybe you carry 4, so maybe you have a one-spot battle for Audric Estime, Jaleel, Blake
Other one
Watson.
probably on the practice squad.
Exactly. Yep. So I'm okay with totally revamping this, and not just kicking everyone out, but keeping some people in from last year as well. So that's my case for J.K. Dobbins right there. Henry, where are you going for your second?
I'll go Tyler Lockett. It's tough because I was actually torn between him and I won't spoil my next one, but I think again, to me, there aren't a lot of places to go. You know, like I would love to say Jedrick Wills would be perfect because you see what the Eagles were able to do with Mekhi Becton last year, take him from tackle where he struggled, move him inside to guard, especially as like a high first round draft pick who you knew like, maybe long-term fits better as a guard, doesn't have the athleticism. Like you have somebody in Jedrick Wills in that mold you can get for cheap, invest in and like build around him. When Ben Powers' contract is up, you plug him in and it might even be a pretty big upgrade just because the athleticism. But you sign Matt Parrott, you still have Alex Pelshevsky. Like you just, I can't say like bring him in and do that. So, and that's so true of so many positions on this roster that I'd stick with receiver here. And Tyler Lockett, a little redundant with Marvin Mims probably. You wonder how you fit those two together, but also the talent is obvious. What he could provide to the offense is obvious. And you've seen teams that lean into speed succeed. You know, maybe, I mean, this doesn't compare to the Dolphins with Waddle and Hill. Like those guys are freaks and they still can't beat good teams. But I just think that sort of juice being added to that offense. Again, like to me, you need juice on offense, and I prefer to wait for running back. So for now, these are the guys I'm looking at.
Yep. And man, Henry, you're losing your goodwill that you built up the first 43 minutes of this show the Toyota chat. Yeah, he's going Tyler Lockett for number 2. With my number 2, I'm going to go Amari Cooper here. I mean, I think the ultimate vet in terms of like what you need. I love what Benny said about when he runs a slant, you are not going to be able to stop it, even if you know it's coming. I love adding that type of veteran presence where it's one thing and then he's going to be great for the young room. And I think he's going to be willing to not be an every down guy. But Henry, if you need him to be an every down guy, last year he definitely had a down year. He was traded in the middle of the season from the Browns to the Bills, and clearly that transition just didn't go as the Bills hoped. Before that, though, when he's just been with the same team, he's an 1,100 yard receiver. 3 seasons ago in 2022, he had 1,160 yards. 2 years ago, he had 1,250 yards, and that was with bad quarterback play and inconsistent quarterback play. I think Amari Cooper would be a great pickup now, and I'm not paying him a lot of money right here, and he has to know that his role isn't to be a wide receiver 2. It's to be a wide receiver, again, 3.5, not on the field a lot. Henry, people are going crazy. They want the wide receiver position to stop. Are you going to stop it here, or are you going to continue?
No, I'm still going, because again, like Honestly, what I would say is I'm probably done with free agency until after the draft. Like, let me see how that shakes out, and then we can figure it out from there. Again, like, have we forgotten about A.T. Perry? I recommend that you do.
Really quick. What's the obsession with A.T. Perry?
It's because he was awesome as a draft prospect. So in his draft class, he was one of the big names, like guy we talk about over and over again. Just like you just don't see that size speed combination all that often. Again, like you knew he was a project because what was he, Army or he was Army? And so like that's what it is that he was such like a monster there. And you knew he was going to be a bit of a project. And so because of that, like it's going to take some time. But at the same time, like right now, he is competing with like David Sills and Michael Bandy. Like that's his tier. He's not like in the conversation to actually be on the team really. Like it's, I don't want to say a ship has sailed, but again, like it's like saying last year, we got Brandon Johnson, we've got Jalen Virgil. Like he's that tier of prospect.
I mean,
and honestly, maybe even a hint below to me.
I wish the best for him, but yes. What? Yeah. Okay. I don't understand the hype for A.T. Perry. You know how many snaps he played last year, Henry, with 2 different teams?
Not a lot.
0. He wasn't on the Broncos active roster. He wasn't getting jerseys. He wasn't playing.
You hate A.T. Perry.
I don't hate A.T. Perry. Like you hate him. I just don't understand what the fascination is for a guy that's on the practice squad, and we're saying, you shouldn't sign a guy that was a 1,200-yard receiver 2 years ago because you have A.T. Perry on the roster. Sorry, there's just been a little bit of built-up frustration with this because you're right. People do love the mystery box, as Ivan Cruz says in the Toyota chat here. I don't get it, but let's continue. So with the third one, you're going where, Henry?
Tyler Boyd. And again, the big takeaway here to me is that, like, again, I'm done with free agency. Like, I get people it's like, I want a cornerback. It's like, yeah, you want to pay Asante Samuel $14 million a year to be your number 4 cornerback? No, that's just not a smart move. There's aren't guys left. Give me Tyler Boyd, a slot receiver, better than Josh Reynolds, fits that same role. Is like, does he actually get on the field? Hopefully not, but realistically, he's going to be getting snaps as your slot receiver.
Henry, I want to see if you go wide receiver the entire way down. For my third, I'm bringing Calais Campbell home, baby. Welcome back to Denver, Calais. And you can stop by the DNVR Bar anytime, which is like 7 minutes away from your high school, Denver South. Let's bring the big boy home. He can be rotational piece, would be great on this Broncos defense. Would absolutely love to see Calais Campbell end his career in Denver. It would be a feel-good story, but it would also be you're getting a damn good football player who I don't care if he's 52 years old, 38, he can play football. So bring the big boy home, Calais. Welcome home.
Yep, he was my number 5.
Number 5, okay, yeah.
Just because, again, it's the same thing. It's like you don't necessarily need that, but if you're trying to win football games and he's cheap, like that, just add that to the rotation and you're in good shape. And then my number 4 is actually DeMarcus Walker for a similar reason. Wow. Again, it's
bring like DeMarcus Walker home.
Exactly. He's turned into a decent player. And for a moment there, he was a really, really good player, got him the big contract, got him cut by the Bears. And that's why, again, it's not because I think that he's the 4th best player available, but it's because I think in terms of value and what the Broncos could use, it's just, I mean, all of a sudden you're 5 defensive linemen, Jones, Roach, Allen, JFM, and then DeMarcus Walker. Cool. Make your strength an even bigger strength. Why not?
There we go. I like it. The Toyota chat is pounding the table for Von Miller.
Yeah.
So put him at 4 for me.
Nice.
We've had this conversation. I don't think he would want a role where he's getting pretty much veteran minimum, where he's coming off the bench. I think he has higher sights set for himself right now, which I don't blame him for. But I'll go Von, number 4 here. Shout out to the nice people in the Toyota chat today. I'll give this one to them right there. And Henry, you've rounded out your list. So let's dive into Super Chats, where we got one coming in from our friend Elijah Cook. A good Super Chat, sizable one. Thank you, Elijah. We appreciate that. Who says, Zach, do you think this is our year to win the division? I was thinking about that this morning, actually, Elijah, and why the hell not? I legitimately think this is a team that, for the first time in a decade, can compete with the Chiefs to win this division. So, yeah, I do think this is a time where they're at least truly, truly competing to win the division. Good question there, Elijah. Henry, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's the schedule, right? Like, you're not going to win Super Bowls if you're just playing every game on the road. I'm sure it's been done, but it's like, 7 wild card teams have ever won the Super Bowl, and maybe some of them hit a home game on the way. It's just so hard to do that. So if you're saying like the 4 years of Bo on a rookie contract is your window, and if year 4 is a Super Bowl, we're done with year 1. Getting a home playoff game either this year or next year would be a very important step in that process, because it's tough to imagine you go from like not winning the division, not winning the division, not winning the division, and boom, now there we are. So yeah, I mean, 5-1 odds, I'll take them.
I love it. And Chris Brown rounds us out by saying, checking in from Missoula, went to MSU, so I'm a Cat, but got to root for them. Grizz was able to finally find a Bo jersey up here.
Yep, I appreciate the rooting for the Montana team. That just was never me. Like I hate as much as I like in sports, and so it's just when I hate the Cats. I want to see terrible things happen to all of them, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's kind of like some people, they're like, well, do you root for the Chiefs since they're in the division? Do you want to win the Super Bowl makes it fit? No! Screw the Chiefs. No one wants the Chiefs to win, but we appreciate you rocking and rolling with us, Chris, and we'll be pulling for the Grizz as well. And shout out to everyone who rocked and rolled with us, especially the people that were nice to both of us today, as we both put out maybe some bad takes, some good takes. We appreciate everyone. Hit us with a thumbs up on the way out. We'll be back 11 a.m. tomorrow with our draft expert, Fran Duffy. We'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.